Hi, this is Sandi Maki with a little bit of heavy breathing just before midnight. Well, a funny thing was just happening. I was trying to analyze and plan what I would say as soon as I hit the record button. Turns out when I just hit the record button and get out of my own way, most of the time the words just come. I was looking for a topic to talk about, and I thought, well, I could talk about the mastermind meeting that we had this morning, and some of the interesting things came up. And then I thought I could talk about the surreal moment that I had in a restaurant this evening when Richard Branson was being interviewed on the channel and talking about his new book and his business philosophies, and the surreal moment when the waitress was watching us watch it and we were talking about just having met him and been on the red carpet in Hollywood, which is, it's really kind of cool. So I was running this all through my head and I was trying to decide how I would bring it up and how it would flow together. And then I said, you know what, that's just the wrong answer. Something that we talked about in the mastermind meeting this morning was when we get in the flow with things and we quit trying to run it through our left brain analytic loop, things just seem to happen and they seem to flow. Sometimes the best things and the best presentations or the best speeches I've ever given or some of the best heavy breathings just before midnight happen when I completely stop thinking about things and I just do it. The same can be said for conversations that we have with people. If you spend all your time trying to figure out your angle and which way are you going to present the information, and if they say this, then I'll say this, and if they say this, then I'll say this, then you spend 99.9% of your time worrying about things and contingencies and plans for things that are never going to happen anyway. We were talking about that in Mastermind this morning. My suggestion was to the group, and this is what works for me, you might have your own style, but when I can observe myself being in one of those loops, the best thing that I can do for myself is say, put it down. Just put it down and let it come as it does, because somehow the words are always there, the point always gets across. And in hindsight, sometimes we wish, oh, I wish I would have said that, I wish I would have said this. If you're in the moment and you're present in the moment as it's happening, you'll say exactly the right thing. And sure, later, if you have more information, you might come up with a different idea. But that always happens, and there's no way that you can possibly plan about what to say in the moment before the moment gets here. Just like, it's really better if I don't plan what I'm going to say before I hit the record button. Because as the timer is scrolling across the screen, which I can see it's ticking off the time, the words just keep coming. Because I'm not just going to sit here and let there be quiet dead space, or my emotional intuitive side isn't going to let there just be dead space here where there should be words. It's a really interesting thing. So we are in full swing of planning for our holiday party, and we're running a silent auction. We're doing swag bags, Hollywood style, which should be tons of fun. The party is coming up in about a week and a half. And the initial thought for the silent auction really is taking a page from the Rock the Casbah event that I was at in Hollywood. They had a handful of silent auction items going on during dinner, and it was just something kind of cool to look at and see and, decide if there was anything interesting worth having. So taking a little bit of that back home here to Brighton. The proceeds for the event we're slated to go toward the Angel Entrepreneur Fund with the Insights Collaboratory, which is a nonprofit division that's dedicated to helping empowered entrepreneurs succeed with monetary contributions, with classes, education, resources as they need. So that was the plan. And then I learned some news this week that is a little bit sad. Some of you may know why I call this podcast series Heavy Breathing Just Before Midnight. It's because when I've done audio work in the past, I've had it produced. And the misspeaks, the heavy breathing that you can hear through the microphone sometime, And the pops and different sounds like that, I've had professionally edited. Well, this podcast series was going to be a little bit more natural, so there is no editing that happens. And it's a really cool thing, and it's perfect this way. Well, I've recorded a number of CDs that are available in many formats, MP3 and audio, on Amazon. And these CDs wouldn't have been possible without the talent that a wonderful individual put forth for us. His name is Phil Ziskowski, and I learned something. I learned that Phil Ziskowski's life was cut short earlier this month, and Phil leaves behind a wife and 2 young boys. If you have the opportunity to work with truly talented individuals that are passionate about what they do, your life is really blessed. I think we walk through life so often meeting people that have a bit of the Atlas Shrugged mentality. And if you've read the book, you might know what I'm talking about. The masses of people who just exist, who wake up one day to see what the next day brings, There's some people that really find that inner calling and that inner motivation and that inner purpose, and those talents can't help but spring forth. Well, I think this is the case. This is what I saw in Phil. Phil would spend hours and hours in the recording studio with myself and with Al Curtis as we recorded live some of our content. And then Phil would spend probably 3 times as many hours, if not more, listening to every single sentence that we spoke, to clean it up, edit it, to put it together for flow. He'd edit the misspeaks. So he really spent a lot more time with my voice than I ever would have. He was also a talented musician, did voiceover work of his own, and was really just a great guy, really passionate about what he did. So it was with some sadness that I learned that he had passed away. And it only seems fitting, as a tribute to Phil, who helped us bring so much into the world, that we would dedicate the silent auction and donation proceeds for the holiday event to the Memorial Fund, which will help support his family. So I know that the gift that Phil gave us with the presence in our lives and the work that he did with us will carry on, and it will be here long after this moment has passed. So thank you, Phil. We appreciate you. And in our own little way, we're going to try to help pay it forward a little bit to your family. So life is a really interesting thing. In the mastermind meeting this morning, Austin asked me a question. And the question was pertaining to something that I've often said. I've talked about driving down the road, and there's some moments where I can distinctly remember this happening to me. I'd be driving down the road in my car, most often alone, with my thoughts, and I would have this clear insight, I suppose, and ask myself a question: is this it? Is this all it is? And I sometimes refer to these as my matrixy thoughts. If you watch The Matrix, there's layer upon layer of reality, but it's not really reality. And what's the purpose? What's the purpose of it all? And those are the kinds of questions that would sometimes come out of the blue and sort of zing me while I was in my car or, doing other various activities. So Austin was asking for what that meant, because he was just a little bit curious. And the best way that I can share about that experience and those thoughts, where is this it, it was my own way of letting myself know that there's something that I'm not seeing, something in this life that maybe I'm not quite aware of. If we're a spiritual being having a human experience, and this is the vessel that we get to play with, our human self includes our mind and our body. So as I'm driving down the road in my car, doing menial tasks or just trying to get from point A to point B, sometimes it would give me cause to stop and wonder, is this all it is? Am I supposed to just keep going from point A to point B for some amount of, I don't know, satisfaction, if there's pleasure derived from that? You know, why does anybody do what they do? So many people ponder the source of motivation, the source of inspiration. What is it? Where does it come from? And in those moments where you just kind of step back from everything, you could say, yeah, really? Is this it? Is this all there is? So in those moments, I think it was myself, one part of myself, telling another part of myself, just wait, there's more. Be open to it. Try to figure out what it is. Because if this is all there is, then wow, like really, what's the point? And then the curtain parted for me the third week in October. And I really should figure out some title for the week that I experienced. Complete blissiness would be one way of putting it. Complete in the momentness, complete knowingness. It was amazing. And in that week, and in those moments in that week, I got the answer to, is this it? Is this all there is? The answer to that was a complete knowingness of, wow, there is so much more. And the feelings that I was able to tap into, and the awareness and the knowledge in the knowing of so much more was astounding. And I know that I need to allow for more of those moments to come forward. And I've got to tell you, that was the most blissful week of my life, and I can't help but crave it. So the underlying sense that I now have, instead of asking myself, is this it? Is this all? It's, I know that this isn't it, and I know that this isn't all. And I've seen more and I know more. And every time I have a moment that reminds me of bliss, I'm reminded that there is so much more in each moment. Which brings me back to how I started this today. I could have tried to plan that, and I could have tried to analyze it, and I could have tried to script everything out. Sometimes that's not the best way. Some of the speakers that speak in the public venue that I respect the most are those who will get on stage without any notes, without any prompters, and they will just talk. And we could say they talk from the heart. I don't know that they're talking from the heart as much as they're speaking from the spirit. Because we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And this is the vehicle that we get to use. So remember that the next time you feel the need to plan something, make it perfect, script it, write it, analyze it, up one side and down the other. Remember that it's okay to just put it down, take things as they come, and in each moment decide exactly what it is that you're going to do. And when you're in the moment, it really isn't decisions. It's just a series of moments after moment after moment where everything is absolutely perfect. There is no wrong answer. And you get to have this free, empowered feeling instead of any of the alternatives. So that's what I do. And that's what happens to me when I sit down to record one of these and start to try to think about what I'm going to talk about, and then I just hit the record button. I always surprise myself. I always entertain myself. Most of the time I will go back and listen to what I talked about because I enjoy it. So I'd like to empower you to give that a try if it's not something that you're used to, and see what happens for you. So thanks for listening. Good wishes go out to our dear friend Phil, who was a spiritual being and is a spiritual being who had a human experience and is now serving in his own special way. Namaste.